What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the NBA Hardwood Show here on today's 9-game DraftKings NBA slate, 10 NBA games in total, but I believe the last one left off the slate. So we got 9 games to talk about. We got the usual Monday crew here on this post-Super Bowl Monday on Draft Sheet, of course. AP, Mangone, we got AP here, big Chiefs fan, and a good day for me and Mr. AP over there celebrating this Chiefs win. And we got Mangone, who's, he's still in the Taylor Swift suite, but he's not quite as happy as we are, AP. Winners go first. We'll start with you. How you doing on this Monday afternoon?
Doing excellent. Doing really well. Normally, I'm struggling because I was sick, but feeling phenomenal because of the game. And I didn't drink. We had this debate. You thought that I would cave and I would drink. Telling you, it did not sound good. I did not drink. I enjoyed the game. I put my phone down. I didn't look at my phone the entire game, too. And rightfully so with how that first half went. I knew that I looked at it at halftime and had 2 texts from Snyder and, a few other buddies just what's wrong with Kansas City, this and that. And I'm I knew that was coming, but still was confident. I still knew that Mahomes was going to find a way to get it done, and he did. I thought it was an awesome game. I mean, it was it just was incredible. And that's what we want. We didn't get a ton of points or anything like that, but I thought it was fantastic football, evenly matched. And I'm not going to say it could have went either way. I truly don't believe that it could not have gone either way. There was no other scenario. It was Mahomes winning, and there was no other scenario. He's just the dude is unreal. So, I don't know, but my last point too is to the chat. The chat yesterday. So in my little 15 minutes that I had on the show that Holden put together and hosted for us. I tried to use my 15 minutes to do what I could to give the people what I thought was the winning script. And I went heavy Mahomes captain. I even tried, Saber was, I had a beef with Saber. Not a real beef with Saber. We love Saber. But in my own script, I was trying to get even more overweight on Mahomes captain. I ended up with 37% or something Mahomes captain, and I wanted more. I did not have McColl in there, and I was under on Jennings, unfortunately. Otherwise, man, we would have been really close. But it was a fun night, and the chat roasted me. I went back and I looked at the chat today when I was talking, they were absolutely roasting me. We won't see any of those people anymore.
You went back and looked up the chat log from when your time on the show?
Oh yes. Oh hell yeah. Why not? I'm spiteful. I wanted to see who was talking shit. I did it. Yeah, I pulled the receipts too from Discord chat too. That's what I do. It brings me joy. But
I gave AP the salute for that. I love a good receipt pull. I can always respect it. So I loved it, AP.
But no, I mean, obviously that overtime Mahomes ended up getting there, but it was an incredible game. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, awesome game. Certainly went my way in the end. I will say, in theory, if someone drank a little too much and maybe doesn't remember the entirety of the fourth quarter, is there a way to rewatch the Super Bowl somehow? Because I don't know. My friend was asking, and I have to have an answer for him. So
you don't auto DVR every Chiefs game like me?
No, I don't DVR anything really. But yeah, awesome game for sure. Glad the Chiefs pulled it out. And you know what, Mangone, you'll have a chance to bet against Mahomes next playoffs too. I'm sure he'll be an underdog in 3 straight games like he was this year. And, maybe you'll get some of that cheddar back that I'm sure you lost backing Mr. Game Manager Brock Purdy, who, man, he did not get the job done. Are you willing to concede, Mangone, that Mr. Purdy is a game manager at this point?
Couple of things. I will say I never did bet on the Bills-Chiefs game. I stayed away from that one. The Ravens one, I was definitely pulling for the Ravens. And fantasy-wise, I did invest in them, so I'll give you that. I didn't place any wagers on it, but I did invest in it. I did invest heavily in the Niners. As you said, DC, the last leg of all those parlays did not hit, as you like to say. And I had a good amount sitting there ready to go. But I don't know. you watch that game, DC, like, I wouldn't say Purdy played bad, right? I don't know. That was the one thing. That was the one thing I felt like I could come into this show, and I don't think you could come in and beat me up and say he's not a game manager. Like, I thought he played pretty decent. My biggest issue I have, if I had to put the blame on one person, all right, you can't, but I think the biggest issue is what Kyle Shanahan did. My biggest gripe with that whole game was, how on earth do you make the decision as Kyle Shanahan to not once, but twice, 2 times, he said, 4th and 4, 4th and 3, opportunity to just go out there and put pressure on Mahomes or kick a field goal and give Mahomes the opportunity to win the game. You can get away with that shit once. You can't get away with it twice. You just
wait. Mangone, you're saying in overtime they should have went for it on what? It was the 4th and 4 after getting absolutely stuffed?
Yeah.
But then, I mean, Harrison Butker.
You can't kick a field goal and hand the ball to Mahomes twice. You just can't.
I mean, I don't know. I disagree a little bit, but
you could have done it.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm just saying, that theory, AP, you're not going to get away with it. You're just not. Kicking a field goal, it's just not going to, like, for instance, everyone loves Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is everyone's coach. Dan Campbell would have went for it both.
But
so I'm just saying.
The counter argument is the Chiefs have struggled inside the red zone and finishing drives too. So, and the 49ers defense.
It's Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. AP.
Yeah.
I knew if the game came down to the final 2 minutes and the ball's in Pat Mahomes' hands, you're just not going to win. Like, I knew that was the problem. Like,
yeah, I mean, they're basically handing the game over anyway. I mean, they're Harrison Butker was going to make a 65-yarder if he needed to. That dude has a cannon for a leg. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't. But regardless, you're handing the ball to Pat Mahomes. It's a dumb idea. Like, it's just not smart. Pat Mahomes is a different animal than any other quarterback, right? He is the anomaly. So in the anomaly scenario,
such a different animal that maybe you should have taken the Chiefs as a dog in that game.
Well, I actually think the game. I personally think the game changed when that punt happened. That punt because I thought at that point the Niners had a lot of good things on their side. I thought that was a huge momentum shift as well. I thought that was a really big play. That if that doesn't happen, I think it's a little bit of a different game. I think it's harder on Pat Mahomes to create a comeback. Not that he can't do that. I mean, he's Pat Mahomes. Of course he could. But I do think that was a very game-changing play. If I had to point to one play in that game, that would be it. And also, as Jacob Stubbs was saying, I think they should have ran a little bit more. I don't think they ran enough. That was my thought process on it. I thought they were doing a good job of that at some points of the game where the balanced attack was good, where they ran enough, and then they had really good matchups where Purdy made some really big plays in good moments. There was a 3rd and 9, I remember specifically to Ayuk, that was really good. But I thought they could have ran the ball a little bit more for sure.
I mean, on that one play though, where what was it, 3rd and 4. Mm-hmm. I mean, if McDuffie is not right in like if he's not right in Purdy's face, I mean, they're converting there. I mean,
that was a great play, by the way, and that's one of those plays that I look back at and I wouldn't be like, oh, Purdy choked. I'd be like, that was a phenomenal play by a defender, right? Like, I mean, sometimes that's just what happens. Like, we always want to say that someone chokes in a game when it's close, but I don't know. It just felt like the Chiefs kind of outplayed him. I thought Shanahan made some errors, I think.
I thought the game changed when they came out in the second half. Chiefs got the ball, and they were horrendous offensively. They turned it over, but it was the defense that just stepped up at that moment, and it was they shut them down the next 3 or 4 drives. The San Fran drive. Right then and there, I knew. I'm like, all right, Kansas City, I feel good. I'm like, they're not losing this game.
Yeah. DJ, I know the rules. It's not the point I was getting at. You don't hand the ball to Pat Mahomes, and it's not 3-down territory anymore. It's 4-down territory.
So
I know the rules. I understand.
Do you go for 2 then? That's what I was thinking about. If I score a touchdown first, do I go for 2 or not? That's what I kept thinking about. What do you guys do?
I know Kansas City said they were going for 2. That's what Chris Jones said. He said they were going for 2 if they scored that touchdown. And if the Niners scored, they were still going for 2 no matter what. So, and I'm okay with that. Like you said,
I don't think the Niners would have gone for 2 if they scored. It's just, I mean, I think it's the right call because the
there it is. There it is. Oh, probably one of the best called games I've ever seen in my life. Like, I thought the refs got it right. I don't know about you guys, but
They
to sit here and call that rigged? Oh my gosh. Come on, man.
AP,
Like,
that's a great point. It was a very good call game. And on the McDuffie play, too, when I saw that like one flag thrown, I was kind of pissed that there was even a flag just in general, because I was like, man, this game has been so clean with like nothing weird, and I don't want there to be any.
That was a definite, hold, though.
It was a whole.
What are the odds that this guy bet on the 49ers? That's got to be close to 100%.
Yeah, 100%. He had money on the Niners. And listen, I had money on the Niners, and I still can appreciate that it was a great game. Like, the first half wasn't amazing, but like, you were on the edge of your seat for the entire second half. I mean, it was an incredible second half in overtime.
Oh, Gator. I mean, come on, man. Like, this whole, like, these grown dudes that are, like, sitting here in shambles bitching about the Taylor Swift stuff is just insane. Like, insane. I mean,
I think I saw.
I'm going to go out there and say I love it. I absolutely loved it. I don't give a shit. Like, it is what it is. But you know what? It got my daughter to come watch the game with me. She's never watched a football game, actually watched and enjoyed a football game with me. She wouldn't have done that if there wasn't all the Taylor Swift, hype. And she learned a lot about the game. She asked a ton of questions, and it made it a lot more fun. So get out of here with that stuff, man.
A couple things. I agree with you 100%, AP. Someone on Reddit like tracked like with a stopwatch the entirety of Taylor Swift's camera time during the Super Bowl, which lasted just over 4 hours. It was under a minute of total, so like way less than 1% of the time. Like, it wasn't a big deal, I don't think. And honestly, as people who like DFS, like gambling, we benefit if these sports grow and get more popular, right? Like, bring in more fans and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't get the Taylor Swift just absolute hate. I mean, who cares, right? Like, it's just not worth the energy, even if you're against it.
I mean, DC, what else were you doing in between plays? Like, who cares what they show? Like, if they're showing it like to an egregious amount, but they weren't showing it egregiously, like, cool, they showed her 10 times. And honestly, like, I don't know, it's just a cool moment. Like the moment AP had with his daughter. Like, those are all positives that, I mean, the world just doesn't revolve around you. It's bringing more fans, and it's a good thing overall for the game.
Yeah. Awesome game. Hope you guys all enjoyed it, even the 49ers backers. And Mangone, it seems like you're, not too bitter. You're willing to take an L. And,
no, I can't be. Yeah, if you want to be able to take W's, you have to be able to take L's. And it was an impressive game. Like, I can't sit there and be like, oh, this bullshit call happened. Like, I will say that there were some calls this year that were a little weird with the Chiefs that was frustrating. And then on the other side, they had some that didn't go their way, especially the Packers game where it benefited my team. But at the end of the day, I'm just happy it was a clean game. You didn't feel like there was anything weird or shady. Like, it was one of the better Super Bowls I think we've seen in a while. I don't know.
I will say I'm jealous of our guy Big T big time. I mean, we all, friends with him on Snap and stuff like that. And he was, posting all this stuff. But man, he was right there in the 49ers end zone. A lot of action in that end zone. That first touchdown was an incredible play. Juwan Jennings to Christian McCaffrey. Man, that was a great play call. I think he had even like a good view of the Usher performance, which started slow, but I thought was good. It was a good show. If you're into the halftime stuff, like I don't think it was bad or anything like that. And our guy, Big T, had to have had the time of his life outside of having to watch DC, our Chiefs own his 49ers.
I'm just happy that Brock Purdy didn't embarrass himself. He did enough so DC couldn't.
He looked good, man.
He can't totally destroy me. So DC, there was one bookmark on your tweet last night. That was me. I'm ready to come at you in the next couple of years on the Brock Purdy.
I mean, like, we're gonna get it. I mean, come on, man. It's the Monday after the NFL. Like, we're gonna get to the slate. I mean,
it's also a free show. Like, I don't know. Like, you really didn't think we were going to talk about the Super Bowl?
I get sometimes we take it too far, but it was the Super Bowl yesterday. I mean, give us a break this one time. Look at DC.
We'll move on to basketball.
And, I mean, we didn't even talk about your 150K win, though, DC. I mean, that should have been like the first thing. So, hey, DC, congrats, my man. Great win for you yesterday. It was massive.
It was a sweat, and I was I was worried that overtime, because a Travis Kelce touchdown would have swung it back in his favor.
Oh,
But
really?
I had
At
the
the end?
lead. I had the lead going into the night, and I never relinquished it the entire day. I had Butker, the Chiefs kicker, on 3 times multiplier. He only had Butker on 2 times, so that was a big shift there. So it was a sweat, but did end up pulling off the big win. And
I didn't want to text you until I knew, and so
Yeah.
I was waiting. I was waiting until one, I didn't pull up Discord until after the game, and then I sifted through and I found it, and then I sent you that text. But
yeah, made
good stuff,
the hangover this morning a little bit more tolerable. I'll say that much. So we'll move on to basketball at this point. Still got plenty of time. Got a whole hour to break down these 9 games, and we'll get into it. So you bitter 49ers fans, you're here for the basketball. We'll give it to you at this point. First game of the night, Indiana and the Charlotte Hornets. It is Indiana favored by 9.5 on the road in this one. Really high, 238 total. No surprise with these two teams. We've seen big changes on the Charlotte side of the ball. I think they're one of the more interesting teams to talk about. Obviously, they made some trades, got rid of some pieces. LaMelo Ball still out for them. Looks like Cody Martin will play in this one. And then several players questionable for Indiana. We do know Jalen Smith going to be out. And then Tyrese Halliburton, obviously the big piece of that Indiana offense, is questionable. I do think he's going to play in this one. It's the same kind of lingering hamstring thing that he's been dealing with. Has seen the minutes ramping up, played 30 minutes in that last game against the New York Knicks. And then the Charlotte Hornets, AP, we'll start with you, did trade for Trey Mann, who, at least by the numbers, kind of immediately took over as the lead point guard for the Hornets. I think is interesting. Got 9 assists in that first game, 31 DraftKings points across 27 minutes, 4,600 on DraftKings. I think he's interesting. Talk to me, AP, Indiana and Charlotte to kick off this slate.
Yeah, so with the Hornets, you hit the nail on the head. Trey Mann obviously got the start, and it was Grant Williams that obviously too factored into the mix. Trey Mann didn't close in that game against Memphis, but still played 27 minutes, 4 of 11 from the field, 9 assists, like you said. I thought he looked pretty good. Micic, I think, is that the Euro guy's name? Yeah, he's the one that closed. He was playing really well. And again, like my take on the Hornets, you got to just kind of embrace the fact that there's going to be a lot of variance, a lot of volatility with this rotation. Moving forward, unfortunately for this team, they never have anything to play for. It seems like. And so again, you're gonna have days where Brandon Miller goes off. You're gonna have days where Miles Bridges goes off, and then you're gonna have days where maybe Trey Mann does close. When LaMelo Ball is out, and so you just kind of have to understand that there's going to be a lot of risk in this situation. I did think Grant Williams looked pretty good. Obviously, 5 for 11. From the field, 8 rebounds, which was definitely nice. A usage rate slightly higher than what we are accustomed to seeing with Dallas, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're a role player for the Mavericks, you're not going to get a ton of offensive usage. So again, I don't think anyone here is a priority. I think Trey Mann, fine. I think if you want to go to the bench guys, I think they're fine. I do not think like Grant Williams or Micic are building block plays at all. Given the fact that they're coming off the bench, and there's a lot of nice spots on this slate, but I do think that they're in play. They're in my player pool. And then my boy Davis Bertans, 11 minutes. I think he got most of his run, it seemed like, in the first half, but he started off nice, stroked like 2 or 3 threes in a row, and then cooled off a little bit. But no, we can't play Davis Bertans. We can't go there. But again, it was nice to see him get some time on the court. And then on the Pacers side, again, it's Rick Carlisle. Can we trust him? No. What do I think Halliburton's minutes look like? My range I currently have is anywhere from 27 to like 32. I would like to see him get up over 30. He was 30 last game, but I don't think it's a lock or anything like that. for him to see over 30 minutes. I do think there's a good chance that he gets those 30 minutes though. And Miles Turner, 6,100. Again, a lot of risk with this rotation, but the price tag is nice. We love bigs, especially shooting bigs against this Hornets team. I think Miles Turner is a fine option. And then my last comment here too is with Halliburton somewhat limited, it does bring TJ McConnell kind of into the mix too. This is a guy that can rack up fantasy points in a hurry. And 4,200 in this matchup. I would not be surprised if he got you 27, 28 fantasy points.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I think the Charlotte guards, to me, the two interesting plays on Charlotte. And I think Bridges and Brandon Miller are both certainly in play on this slate, but I do think it's the Trey Mann Micic kind of rotation that I think is the most intriguing, just because they're so cheap and Charlotte needs a point guard. I mean, they combined these two for 18 assists. And again, I think AP, you made a lot of good points. We don't know how this rotation is necessarily going to shake out for Charlotte. I'm not even sure the coaching staff knows, right? I think it's going to come down to kind of who's playing well. Mangone, we saw Trey Mann, he played, I think it was something like 14 of the first 17 minutes of this game. Micic checked in the second quarter, and the bench unit just went off, kind of led by Micic, and I think that kind of limited, and then we saw Micic close too, but we don't know for sure if that's going to happen. I think there are scenarios where Trey Mann, if he plays well, which he certainly could in this scenario, just gets a 34, 35-minute role, and I think is a really interesting play at 4,600. Interested where you're sitting here on Mangone. I think this is a really intriguing game to kick off the slate.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting game. I am typically low on just playing Charlotte. I think Charlotte kind of sucks. I always kind of limit the amount that I get of them, but there are good plays on this team, especially from a value perspective. I think I'm mainly looking at the values. I'll also admit, I didn't play the last couple days before the Super Bowl, so I saw AP tweeting about Davis Bertans, and then I knew that things were going pretty crazy in the NBA, that he was getting run. So I was skiing and everything, but getting back into it, these point guards you just have to like I always talk about, DC. Indiana's on the slate. We have to always like the team against them, and same with Charlotte. I mean, this is a game where if you're playing that big $4 150 tournament, 150 max, you probably want to get exposure to this game. Now the question is, what are the plays that you want to get exposure to? For me, it's really looking at the values more so. I don't hate the idea of a Brandon Miller and a Bridges, but those are guys I don't want to be overweight on. It's really the values. And Trey Mann, I think he's not a bad option that you can get exposure to. I don't hate Grant Williams. I don't know if you guys saw the quote on Grant Williams, but Grant Williams basically said it's nice playing for a team that plays for the front of the jersey, not the back, which I love that quote. It was pretty funny. So maybe it was a shot at Luka. I don't know. But Grant Williams is definitely liking his role here on this team. We know he's been a better player when he's with the Celtics, right? 4-3 is just too cheap for it seems like the role he's going to have, especially against the Indiana Pacers. On the Indiana Pacers side of the ball, there's not much I love, because if you look at all these guys, Mathurin, you look at or Mathurin, as you guys like to say, Nesmith, Siakam, I'm not in love with these plays. I do like the big men, because the Charlotte Hornets are a team that, hey, we want to target them with big men. Miles Turner at 6'1", he's one of those guys that if you look at the 6'1" price tag, it's just too cheap for this matchup and the ceiling that he provides. I talk about it on all these shows. There's guys between 5K and 7K that just have massive ceilings in certain spots, and this is one of them. You don't want to ignore him. And I think even Isaiah Jackson at 3.5, sure, he might not get a pile of minutes, but we know with this Indiana team, sometimes these bench guys get more minutes than you expect. It's kind of like the Memphis Grizzlies, where these just bench guys get a little bit more burn. And at 3.5 in this matchup against Charlotte, especially if it does blow out, it's an interesting spot for a value play in Isaiah Jackson. So I'm mainly looking at the big men on the Indiana side of the ball, and that's really it. And then on the Charlotte side, it's mainly the values. You can make a case for some of these other expensive guys, but I think it's the value plays I'm more so targeting in Mann and Grant Williams.
All right, that's Indiana and Charlotte. Good game to kick us off. We go to the next game on the slate, Philadelphia and Cleveland. Just these two games in the 8 p.m. Eastern time window, or 7 p.m. Eastern time window, rather. It is Cleveland favored by 11 here. I think Cleveland's won 16 out of 17, something crazy like that. Playing really good basketball right now. Philadelphia, on the other hand, a little bit of a struggle, obviously, with the Embiid injury changing their team. We do know, of course, Embiid going to sit. Philadelphia traded for Lowry. Looks like he will not be available in this game. Sixers will also be without Melton, Batum, Covington, and perhaps Tobias Harris, who is questionable, as is Mo Bamba. So potentially another shorthanded night for the 76ers. Looks like Cleveland should be pretty much fully healthy for this one. They obviously got Garland back fairly recently. He's going to be in there, as will Evan Mobley, Jared Allen healthy. This Cleveland team making a charge right now, AP, and I think rightfully big favorites in this game. What do you see, Cleveland and Philadelphia?
Yeah, Tobias Harris, midday downgrade to questionable too? Is that right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, questionable. This is just a tough matchup for Tyrese Maxey and any opposing combo guard that plays his style of basketball. I mean, when you got Evan Mobley, Jared Allen that can stuff things up down in the paint, can force a lot of outside shots, and I feel like Maxey without Embiid, like I'm a huge believer in Tyrese Maxey. I think he is very talented, a future stud for sure, but without Embiid out there, he's, in my opinion, just from like watching him, he can really struggle in these tough matchups. Easy matchups like Utah, smashed, absolutely smashed. In that game, I don't think Walker Kessler played a lot, so lack of rim protection too. In these games where they can force bad shots, I've seen him take a lot of bad shots, and so I think it's a tough spot to pay a premium. So like the usage will be there, the stuff to pay off that price tag will be there, but the matchup is just going to be so difficult, and I expect them to do whatever they can to take Tyrese Maxey away. They need that Embiid presence to take the pressure off of Maxey. So I found myself under on Philly in this spot. Like even Buddy Hield, I left him in my player pool, but 6,300, a guy that's going to rely on, while he's been very good in this role. I like him on Philly. I feel like they needed 3-point shooting. So it was a good pickup for them. You got to love the minutes that he's getting. But again, he's coming off two of the best matchups that he is going to see, Atlanta and the Wizards. And you go from that to now a tough matchup, a brutal matchup in Cleveland, probably a pass for me. I find myself under or fading Philly, even though we might see a tight rotation. And then on the Cavs side, the thing about Philly now without Embiid, they've definitely taken a hit defensively. Paul Reed is not Joel Embiid. Mo Bamba especially is not Joel Embiid. And you have Evan Mobley, 6,800, and Jared Allen, 7,200. I'm not convinced that these guys are going to play a full allotment of minutes, but I'm not sure that they even need it to get there. The problem is Cavs fully healthy right now. A lot of mouths to feed on this offense, but we do have some pretty attractive price tags, and so I think it's one of those where you're just trying to pluck whoever that guy is that could find himself with that optimal score at the end of the night. So I'm tackling the Cleveland situation with some rules, just kind of limiting one or two max from the squad. Like I think Mobley at 6,800 is fine. I'm curious, like Garland, I know he's been on a limits minute. He's up to 28. If he gets 30 minutes here in this matchup, I mean, I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts are because 6,400 is a cheap price tag. I know playing along Donovan Mitchell, it's not ideal, but still that price tag is really low. And we've seen him have big games, even starting alongside Donovan Mitchell. So I'm a little intrigued in Darius Garland. I don't think anyone's going to play him either.
Yeah, the Cavs blew out their last opponent, the Raptors. So they did pull – they were closing the game with all 5 starters. And I believe they pulled them all with 3 minutes to go. So if you look at the minutes for Garland, they were at, 29. Mobley was at 27. So they all would have played those final 3 minutes, I believe. So, yeah, I don't think the minutes limit on Garland or Mobley is too restrictive at this point. I mean, Garland's playing well. Mobley's playing well. I think they could get their big minutes, especially Mobley, man. He's been awesome since returning from injury. And, yeah, this matchup looks awesome. I think Cleveland is going to put the clamps on Philadelphia. I'm with AP. Like, even if Tobias Harris misses, I don't like the spot for Maxey, and I think just given how shorthanded Philadelphia is, I think people will chase it, which I get, right? Because the upside is there, no question. I'm worried about a blowout here, though, to be honest. So I'm not going crazy with Cleveland. I do think Mobley, to some extent Mitchell, Allen, I think they're all pretty interesting plays, but I don't want to play multiple of them on the same team because, Mobley and Allen are both crushing. I got to think that Cleveland's running away with this game early, and you might miss out on that fourth quarter rotation. Your thoughts here, Mangone, Cleveland, Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, listen, Evan Mobley at 6'8" is fine, but like, am I loading up on him? No, I don't want to load up on a lot of these options. I also do worry. Yeah, this game could blow out, of course, if they are missing a Tobias Harris. Just the team gets thinner and thinner. And if you miss that rotation, we talk about this all the time. If a just team gets blown out in a game and they miss that like final rotation, it's a big disaster. So not excited about that. I know someone in the chat is mentioning Ricky Council the fourth. I don't think I'm dying to play him as a value, but we'll see what projections do with him and ownership does with him. If Tobias is out, I think that would be interesting to see. I think AP brought up really good points with Buddy Hield because I was looking at what he's been doing and I was pretty surprised with how good he's been. But this is a game I want to be lower on. I think for the most part, when I kind of dive into everything, and we don't have a lot of news on this, like we got more to come that could open up some stuff. Like this is a game I think I'm just going to kind of limit a lot of the players in my MME format. Like I just don't want to get overweight too much on these guys. If you look at some of the price tags, like Donovan Mitchell's 9.9. Like could Donovan Mitchell have a good game? Sure, but there's other studs I'd rather probably play. I don't hate the Jared Allen and Mobley thing. Like those two guys are perfectly fine. They feel like the best like upside plays for their price.
It's got to be one or the other, though, right? You don't want to play both these guys on the same team.
Yeah, you don't want them together. Like this feels like a game where you want to limit like how much exposure you have to it, if that makes sense. So I think it's okay to get exposure to some of these guys, but you don't want to be too overweight on this game. There's some prices that make sense, like we've discussed.
Yeah, Ricky Council. I think Ricky Council is kind of a fish play tonight. Honestly, I'm not playing Ricky Council.
What if Tobias is out? Would it change your mind? That's what I was wondering.
Maybe puts him a little bit back in play, but I still think even in that scenario, then he's going to get too much ownership to the point where I don't want to play him. So
one thing I'll say, DC, is if he is somehow the starter, it's
Sure.
Nick Nurse, right? That is one thing to keep in mind. I try to say this with Philly. Play starters when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers. It's Nick Nurse. It's how he rolls. Yes, if the game does blow out, you will not get that run than you're thinking, but that is how Nick Nurse is. So just figured I'd point that out.
Yeah, one difficult thing about doing the show early is you come out with like a hard stance and then things change and you don't want to change all your lineups against what you said on the show. So I don't want to say that I'm 100% sure not playing Ricky Council, but that certainly is my lean right now. The minutes limit on Garland, I don't know if it's really a super hard minutes limit at this point. He's been back for a while. He's playing well. I mean, he would have played 32 minutes in the last game. That said, though, I mean,
like my point on that was since we've had or since the last few games have been blowouts, we have yet to see that price adjust. You know what I mean? So if you think like Donovan Mitchell, it's hard for me. And again, I don't try to predict blowouts, but I don't see how this game doesn't get out of hand. And there's a lot of risk in paying a premium for Donovan Mitchell, but we're not paying a premium for Darius Garland. That was kind of my argument behind him.
Yeah, makes sense. We got to keep it moving at this point. We'll go to San Antonio and Toronto next. Toronto favored by 6.5 at home here, 236 total. Looks like pretty much two fully healthy teams at this point, Spurs and Raptors, which at least on the Spurs side, AP makes me hesitant to really play anybody outside of Victor Wembanyama, who's been a little bit underwhelming these last 2 or 3 games, but we know the upside that he brings to the table. I think he's certainly capable of it in what I think is a pretty good matchup here against the Raptors, who we've mentioned many times are not the same defensive team that they were before the trades of Siakam and OG Anunoby. Their defense has really fallen off over the last month or so. But overall, not a game I love, which is, when you get a 9-game NBA slate and 2 healthy teams, you're going to usually have somewhat limited options. That's the way I see this one. What do you see, AP, Spurs, and Raptors?
Yeah, when you look at ownership projections, kind of across the industry, Devin Vassell popping as a popular guard option. I mean, it makes me want to throw up. Anytime a Spur player is popping in projections, I'm
the
just
other
always
way,
hesitant.
if you don't like
What?
him, I could talk about the Spurs for a while. I think they're great plays, but
yeah. So I'll wrap up the Spurs side pretty quick. It's mainly this rotation is just it's such a disaster. Wembanyama is fine because you know what you're getting. He's under 9K. I like that price point for him, but again, you are relatively capped to some standpoint because you're not going to get over 30 minutes from him. So, and I know that he could, there's a good chance he's going to have that fire emoji, by his name, but can he get us the like 60 piece? Like I do want my 9K guys or close to that to have the ability to get that 60 piece. And it's just, you need him to be so efficient. You need him to rack up all the stocks to do it. And so I struggle to play him in this spot. And Devin Vassell, 6,500. I think there's better options. So I'm probably under. I'll let Mangone play the Spurs. The Raptors side, I have a little bit more interest in. I don't mind the backcourt. Obviously, we can still target the Spurs. The opposing backcourt's definitely fine. Emmanuel Quickly, 6,900. I think he's the price tag there is great. And then our boy, Scotty Barnes, coming off. He's been kind of streaky, to be honest. But, man, last 2 games, he's starting to look good. The usage rate, very solid, almost back-to-back triple-doubles. Now gets and that was in tougher matchups. Now he gets the Spurs. I think we got to go back to point Scotty at 8,500 on DraftKings.
Yeah, he kind of took over. He kind of rescinded the point guard role a little bit after the trades there, but it does look like that's back. He had 10 assists last game, 16 potential assists, and it kind of seems like he's, kind of reclaiming that role a little bit from Quickly. Barnes had double the potential assists, more passes made, more passes received. So it does look like they're playing through Scotty Barnes a little bit more, kind of like they were. Remember, like the first couple of weeks of the season, he was one of the biggest stories in the league. It does kind of seem, Mangone, that they're getting back to that, something that maybe I missed a little bit. But it sounds like you're more into the Spurs than me and AP. So go ahead, Mangone, talk to us, Spurs and Raptors.
Yeah, I just think we can't totally ignore the Spurs. Like, I agree. There's some of these guys are a mess, but there's a couple guys that their rotations are pretty secure. I mean, again, I haven't played the past couple days. The Wemby stuff, I don't know what happened the past couple days with his rotation. I mean, he's typically been pretty good. The 23-minute one against Orlando, I assume they just got killed, and it's Orlando. And Orlando's really good. So, I think that Wemby is fine. Is Wemby this guy that you're expecting like 60 or 70? Like, I agree with some of AP's points, but in single entry 3-max stuff, I definitely don't mind plugging him in as one of my studs. I think he's definitely a solid option. So I don't mind him. Devin Vassell or Vassell, however you want to say his name, I don't know which one's correct, but his upside and his minutes are really secure. They just are. I think he is a play at 6.5K. You just can't completely ignore it. He's also shooting guard eligible. I'll admit, shooting guard is not the most fun position most nights. Maybe tonight ends up being differently, but shooting guard, sometimes you look at the list and Klay Thompson is being pounded in there, and Klay Thompson's absolutely been terrible, right? Point I'm getting at is I think Devin Vassell at his price cannot be ignored. I also think Trey Jones has upside at the price. The problem is that's where those minutes are a bit shaky. I think some of Trey Jones' minutes have been, and not just minutes, the usage has been taken away from some of Keldon Johnson's good production lately. When he was kind of out and Zach Collins was out, it definitely secured up his role a bit. The only 2 guys I feel like that have pretty secure roles are Vassell and Wemby. I think those are the 2 guys. But you can make an argument, especially if you're playing MME stuff, some of these Spurs can get there. So if you're getting exposure to a Keldon Johnson, who at 5'6", you could see get 45 DK points in this matchup. It's possible. If you're playing that $4, you don't need to get a lot of exposure, but I wouldn't play like 3 of these guys or even 2. I would just think about how I play some of these options. That's all. I don't think they're completely dead plays, but you just have to be smart with how you play them. Like even Vassell and Wemby, I probably don't want them on the same team in this big $4 today. I think I'm going to talk about that a lot because it's a contest that everyone's probably playing for the most part. So just get some exposure to those guys. I think they are good plays. I actually don't mind Scotty Barnes. Scotty might be a small forward. He is point guard eligible, but he is the point guard, and point guards do well against the Spurs. I think Scotty is a good play at 8.5 because of the upside that he possesses. I think Emmanuel quickly at 6.9 and RJ Barrett, they're interesting plays, but understand with all these guys back, their floors can be a bit worse. So I think similar to what I said with that Philadelphia game, you can play some of these guys, but limit how many you play. My favorite play is probably Vassell, followed by Wemby, and then Scotty Barnes. Those are probably my 3 favorite plays. So it's more so spend up options or mid-tier options in this game, not as many value plays. And people might ask about a Kelly Olynyk at 4.9. Listen, man, on this kind of slate, I just don't want to play plays like that I trust. If I happen to get them in my 150, sure, I'll get like a small amount and I won't exit, but just don't go overweight on someone like that, or don't play him in like, single entry stuff. It just doesn't seem worth it.
Makes sense. I do like the Scotty Barnes. When we talk about him, I think he makes a ton of sense. And I kind of split the difference with you guys on Vassell. I do think he's a solid play. I'm with you, Mangone. I think the minutes are pretty secure, the most secure on this team. Wemby, like his minutes are secure. They're just capped at 30. But yeah, I think Vassell is interesting, and I do like the Scotty Barnes call for sure.
Like DC, not everyone, but a lot of people are playing Kobe White right now, right? He's a popular shooting guard, and for good reason. But Vassell's going to be at least like half the ownership at this time, and of course things can change. But point being is this guy might be like below 10% on this slate, and you can just play really good plays around him in like single entry 3 max stuff, and then he has the ability to have that like 40 to 50 point ceiling and help you win the slate and maybe be at the top of the leaderboard.
Did you say sub 10%?
He might be below 10. Yeah, I could see it.
Vassell? I was seeing like 30.
I'm seeing 15 on Saber right now, but like I'm also accounting.
I will say you guys sold me. That's the point of it. And looking at his rotation, it has been solid. And they paid the guy a ton of money. Look, they paid him a ton of money. He needs to prove his worth.
Yeah. Also, when I'm looking at the slate AP, I think when news hits, he could become lower owned. And people don't like clicking on Spurs. They just don't. So, but we'll see. Obviously,
I'm one of them. I'll admit that.
Yeah, obviously, if a Spurs is gaining ownership, yeah, you maybe go the other way. But I think minutes-wise in rotation, we all agree, him and Wemby are the only 2 safe ones.
Our guy, Swoop, like how much do you want to play like a random bench dude that when I pulled up Kelly Olynyk, I thought he'd be a little cheaper, but 20, could he crush in 22 minutes? Kelly O could crush 22 minutes, but I don't know. It's a very fringe play.
It feels like the wrong slate to do it. Like, again, when I run my $4, if I have 2%, will I blow it up? Probably not. But if I see like 12, I'll be like, well, that's wrong. I got to change that. Like, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, we did just get news. Tobias Harris is going to be out for Philadelphia. We'll revisit that game at the end of the show, I think is the best way to do it in case we get more news on Philly. And we just talked about them, obviously. But my personal inclination is to just kind of be off that game as much as I can in general. I think we're going to see a blowout between Philadelphia and Cleveland. For now, though, we do got, 6 more games to talk about. So we'll go to the next game on the slate, one of the more intriguing ones, at least from where I'm sitting, Chicago and Atlanta. Atlanta favored by 3.5 here, 239 total, which is, I guess, a little low for Atlanta, but very, very high for Chicago, right? We generally see them, AP, 215 to 220, something like that, for a lot of Chicago Bulls teams, some of the lowest totals in the league. Not the case tonight, sitting at 239. We do know for Chicago, Patrick Williams is going to be out. And then I don't know if it's not sneaky, but Alex Caruso is questionable. Chicago, obviously missing Zach LaVine as well for the year, has been playing a very, very tight rotation and down enough guys at this point where they're playing Drummond and Vucevic together most games for at least a few minutes, which is interesting. Just kind of shows you how thin they are. Man, this matchup for Chicago is awesome. I think Kobe White DeMar DeRozan, and I think especially Nick Vucevic are pretty awesome plays in this game in Atlanta. Atlanta will be without Clint Capella. We've seen Okongwu obviously play pretty well for the most part with Capella out. I think he's interesting at 6,600. But yeah, really, really good game here, especially on the Chicago side. And especially if Caruso misses, I think he's going to play. But if he is out, man, I don't mind loading up on this Bulls team. What are your thoughts here, AP?
Yeah, my first thought is when I looked at Sabres projection on Andre Drummond, it like blew my mind. And then I kind of looked across the industry too, and I'm like, what am I missing? I still don't know what I'm missing. I mean, I'm seeing like projections of like 33, 34, 35. Like, what are we doing? So looking into it, I mean, against the Timberwolves, it made sense. Drummond started. The Wolves are a big team. Gobert, Towns, like you need the size to match up. Against the Grizzlies in the next game, I can't recall what happened, but Ayo Dosunmu did not play much in the second quarter. He was subbed out, and they went back to that big lineup. And Drum played over 30 minutes, did very well. But then against Orlando in their last game, Drummond back to the bench. And maybe it was foul trouble that he had 4 fouls. So it's not like he fouled out or anything like that. But he played in stints. He played only 16, 17, barely 17 minutes. I don't quite, because he's 5,900. And if you're running a projection of like 34, he's naturally going to get forced into a lot of lineups.
I don't think they're going to play Vucevic and Drummond together much.
Yeah, against the I don't know what I'm missing.
He had 4 fouls in the first half, so that's what happened.
Well, you can't put Drummond on. Like the Hawks play all those wings, right? You can't put Drummond on Jalen Johnson.
You got Sadiq Bey, DeJounte Murray. You got Bogdan that's going to come off the bench. And then to counter it, you got Ayo Dosunmu and Alex Caruso, and then obviously Kobe White, but he's not known as like a defender. But you got 2 guys that are good, can match up with just about anyone, especially these wings. I don't see it. Like if anything, it would be more like Torrey Craig just to match up with the Hawks, because when Okongwu was off the bench, they could go small. They could definitely go small. So, and they could run Drummond off the court. So I don't know what I'm missing, but I'm gonna if that projection holds, I'm gonna take a big stand and be like under or completely fade him. I love Vucevic though, DeRozan, Kobe White. Again, it's the Bulls situation. We love this. The Hawks play no defense. It comes down to setting rules. 3 max. So which 3 are you playing here, or which potential 3? I don't think you should play Kobe White, DeRozan, and Vucevic all together. I mean, I think you could get away maybe with 2 of them in a matchup against the Hawks. But I love the Bulls.
I'll disagree a little bit.
All three. Yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it. Out of all 3 though, I love Kobe White. Point guards against this Hawks team. We've seen some monster performances. I mean, just going back, looking at the last 7. I mean, we had that Luka 101 DK point game. Steph Curry with almost an 80 piece. James Harden, almost 65. Derek White, 45. Cam Payne with almost 40 DK points. So it's just such a great matchup. This is a great Kobe White spot. He's definitely my favorite play in this game.
Yeah. So the Bulls, I think, rightfully criticized for not making any moves, like no trades. It's just not a team that can contend. But that doesn't mean that they're not good DFS plays, Mangone. And it also is like the fact that they stuck with their team, right? Okay, so they're trying to win games. And it means that the guys, they're going to give them big minutes, right? Like one of the reasons I think you can play White, DeRozan, and Vucevic together if you want to is because their minutes are correlated. I know it's, one basketball and only one person can score. But like if Kobe White gets 40 minutes in the close game, DeRozan and Vucevic are probably close to 40 minutes as well. They're not that expensive. Man, and like look at the guys they're playing with. Caruso hasn't taken double-digit shot attempts in the last 8 games, despite playing like 33, 34 minutes a game. Dosunmu, good defender, but like not really much of a scorer, right? Not a high usage guy. the guys are bringing off the bench, Terry and Drummond isn't obviously a scorer. Like everything runs through White, DeRozan, Vucevic. About the best matchup you can have. Really, really into the Bulls team. What are your thoughts here, Mangone?
Yeah, one reason we get frustrated with the Pacers is because they have so many guys they can mix and match. Like here, I feel like I agree with AP. I don't think Drummond can really hang in this game in Vucevic lineups. If Drummond has a big game, it's likely at the expense of Vucevic, in my opinion. So I don't mind setting a rule of keeping them on separate teams if you want. I don't mind the 2 or 3 rule. I might do that. I'm going to mess around with it and see. I think mainly it's because those guys are so expensive, but they are playing the Hawks. It's a great matchup. And these guys are going to play a pile of minutes. Look at the guys that come off the bench. It's Drummond, who we already think that he's going to split center minutes like 48-48, maybe not the full way, but a lot of the way, where it's just the 48 are cut between those guys.
Yeah, 38 to 10, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see some overlap, but you're not going to see an egregious amount like you did against the Timberwolves. So that leaves Torrey Craig, Dalen Terry, and Julian Phillips, who last game against the Magic played 20 minutes, 11, and 7 minutes. Like, the point I'm getting at is you got to like some of these Bulls. Kobe White, I think I like a lot, mainly because he's shooting guard eligible, and shooting guard's kind of bad, like we talked about, like Caruso and DeSumo as well. I think they could have some good games. And even DeRozan saw. Like, all these guys are good plays. Just have to kind of figure out how to mix and match them on your teams properly. I don't know if you should set some rule with White, Caruso, and DeSumo, or maybe a Caruso and DeSumo rule, but I don't think you need to. It's the Atlanta Hawks. They're a team that we just want to target. We're going to have exposure to Bulls today. It's just that simple. And I think Vucevic is in a really good spot. We love to target the Atlanta with the big men, and I think he's a really good play here for sure. Okongwu is getting expensive at 6'6". Now, could he get there at the price? I think he can get there, but not this guy I'm dying to get to. Jalen Johnson at 7.4K. I just think there's other plays I'd rather get to. He's just getting a little pricier for me. Sadiq Bey, I don't mind him at 6'1". I think I like him a little bit better than a Jalen Johnson. And then Bogdanovich, I mean, I don't think he's amazing in this spot. I'd rather play some of those Chicago guards that we talked about in Caruso and Sumo instead. And then Trae Young, I think you can always make a case he could have a big game and be one of those ceiling plays as a run back option. I know, DC, you like to kind of condense on a game sometimes. If you're going to play 3 of these Bulls, Saber, they don't correlate a ton, but it definitely correlates more than I'd say most optimizers. I wouldn't mind if you got a little bit of a Trae Young run back just in case the game stays close. I'm not doing it for an overtime angle, but sometimes games that stay close, especially a Hawks game, it just booms and you want to have exposure to it.
Yeah. Awesome game there. And I mean, I personally think we talk about rules sometimes. I think you got to play a Bull on at least one Bull on pretty much every lineup you build. You don't have to. It's 9 games, but I think we're going to see some fire emojis next to multiple Bulls tonight against the Hawks. All right, let's get to the 8 p.m. Eastern time window. It is Pelicans and the Memphis Grizzlies that we'll talk about first. Pelicans favored by 9.5 in this one. Pretty low total, sitting at 222. Obviously, Memphis ravaged by injuries that they have been all season long, missing all the guys that have been out, along with Derrick Rose doubtful, Zaire Williams doubtful as well. Jake LaRavia going to miss this game. Just a really, really depleted team are the Memphis Grizzlies. Pelican side, big news that we're waiting for is on Zion. I believe it's the same little foot injury he's been dealing with. He's played through it most games and then missed the last one. My guess is he's back for this one, but just a guess. And then Cody Zeller, also questionable. Obviously not huge news there. I think a much less interesting game here, AP. I personally try to avoid Memphis as much as I can. I just don't trust this team, but they are cheap, and, someone's got to play the minutes and produce. It's the NBA. Your thoughts here, Grizzlies and Pelicans.
Yeah, so, this game it's an easy one to just completely overlook. And I agree with you. I think the game gets out of control a little bit, which for me, a guy like Jaren Jackson, it makes me a little bit, hesitant to play a guy like him on the Grizzlies side. I feel like the Grizzlies kind of in tank mode. We should see a lot of random rotations as they try out a lot of these younger players. On the Pelicans side, I mean, Zion's 7,300. If he plays, like, man, he's a flowchart play. He could smash that price tag in under 30 minutes. And so I'm leaving him in the pool. It is a strict rule spot because it's like it's going to be like a one of him or Ingram, or CJ McCollum. I'd throw him into the mix there too. Point guards against his team, any position basically against this G League-esque Grizzlies team is definitely fine. My sneaky take, Bogards and Chad's going to hate this. He's going to call this play a value thought, and it's not even a value thought. That would be more so Keontae George that we're going to talk about later, my guy who's been a stud. But Jose Alvarado. So this is like one of those like large field, sub one, like lower than 1% owned type of plays. Just think about it though. The Grizzlies, they have Jacob Gilyard. They got Scottie Pippen that they're going to run out. Like, what does Jose Alvarado do? No one cherry picks better than him. Like, racking up steals and blocks and converting into transition buckets. I think this could be a game where Jose Alvarado racks up like 4 or 5 steals, playing, leading to extended minutes run, playing like 24, 25 minutes, and like ending the night with like a completely random, like, 28 to 34 DraftKings points. Backed by a lot of steals to free buckets. So I think in large field tournaments, I'm going to take a little stab on my guy, Jose Alvarado. Outside of that, I'm not a huge fan of this game.
Yeah, AP, I believe you wrote the playbook for this 9-game play up on the site. And I can usually tell, you did tell us before the show that you did, so that's kind of cheating. But I can usually tell when you did write it because you've always got some random ass bench dudes. It's not on anybody's radar. But it's a compliment to you, right? Because you're digging into every single team, every single player. And if you do that, you're going to come up with some gems that aren't on other people's radars. It happens to me in baseball, right? Where like,
I love it.
People aren't looking at the individual matchups like as closely as maybe I do. And like, yeah, sometimes it's going to lead me to some random ass 8-hole hitter that's like 0.2% owned. And you can't help it. Right. And if you come across something like that and it hits, like that's, listen, I'm probably not going to play Alvarado tonight, but like, that's how you one way to help you get to the top of a tournament. So it's obviously fun.
It's more for, that $4, I dove extra deep just because that $4 100K up top. It's just,
it's not, but
it makes sense in that format.
You're not just making it up. Like the research that you did led you to think that Alvarado could be, a sneaky, super cheap play. So we're talking, the Spencer Strider play where we played him out of the bullpen before he was, the best pitcher in baseball, stuff like that you only get to if you're really, really diving deep. So yeah, kudos for that. Still don't know if I'm playing Alvarado, but I did.
I hear you.
Mangone, besides Alvarado, who you on in this Pelicans and Grizzlies game?
Yeah, not only are we owning Mangone today, we're bringing up the Braves to piss me off. So thanks, DC. I hate the Braves.
That's right, baby. Less than 2 months away. Baseball season. We're coming up.
Can't wait, actually.
Yeah, go Braves.
It's going to be awesome with SaberSim, too, with the new tools that they have. But anyway, we got to keep moving. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, so let's I actually like that call, AP. I'll give you that. Like, when I do my 150, I am going to put a 2% min at least. Like, who knows what I'll actually get, but I will, if I don't have any AP and it's getting to crunch time, I'll throw the 2% in just out of respect. I'll say that.
I'm going to check the receipts, Mangone. I'm going to dig through your teams and make sure you got your 2% over.
I'm definitely going to put it down. Hopefully it gets through. But so I like that idea though. Actually, it's a really good call because DC, you and I talk about this a lot. When you look for a contrarian play like that, you want a good fantasy point per minute producer, right? You don't want it to be this 3-and-D loser. You want to be some guy that actually has a good fantasy per minute production. So I don't mind it. We need some of the Memphis news, so I don't want to touch too much on that. It's just really hard to. And some of these guys have elevated prices. Like, I don't mind Santi Aldama. I know what his upside is at 5.5, even if those guys are in, so I don't hate him. And if Zion happened to be out, I do think some of these guys will pop as interesting plays. So this could be something that you make some adjustments for if the news hits, but not things I'm prioritizing. And DC, you and I have talked about this. I haven't been big on Zion this year, and I think for the most part I've been right. He's been better over the past couple of weeks, but
I barely played him as well. I've been with you.
Yeah. But he's been better. He has been assisting a lot more and getting more usage in that way. And listen, 7-3 is more enticing. Probably won't get a lot of him, but it's definitely more enticing at this point.
I mean, 7,300 against the Grizzlies. He's actually played well when he's been in there. I wouldn't be worried about the injury if he's able to go. And I mention this often. Assuming we don't get the Zion news before lock, you'll get him half as owned as he would be if he was just, a full go all day long. So, yeah, he's one of those guys that I think he's a really interesting play, assuming that the news comes, after lock. And, yeah, Zion 7,300 against the Grizzlies, I think certainly a way you could go, get a little bit different, and certainly a good guy to swap to, too, for some low ownership with 50 fantasy point upside. All right, we'll move to the next game, Denver and Milwaukee. Denver favored by 1 here on the road in Milwaukee. Looks like these teams mostly healthy, at least on the Denver side. Just Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is questionable. Looks like everybody else should be good to go. And then Chris Middleton is going to miss for the Milwaukee Bucks. We've seen Milwaukee have they've had 2 blowouts on either side in the last 2 games. So Giannis has played just 24 and 27 minutes. Certainly this game not expected to be a blowout. AP battle between Giannis and Joker, obviously 2 of the best players in the NBA. But I think kind of tough individual matchups for them both in this one. Your thoughts here, AP, Nuggets, and Bucks.
Yeah, so really, obviously, this is going to be the game of the night to watch. And we finally saw something with the Bucks. I don't know if it was just, sometimes a guy like Pat Bev coming in and calling everyone out, like game 1, stealing the clipboard and just yelling at everyone, calling them out.
You gotta love it.
I mean, you do. You have to love it. You have to respect it. And they looked a lot better defensively in that game. Mind you, it was against who was it against? I reviewed the game earlier. I forget who was Hornets. The Hornets. So it's the Charlotte Hornets, a team that's in shambles. But now is the true test. And I love what I saw out of Dame. Dame got it done in limited time. He played 27 minutes, put up a 50-piece. I think he goes back to back. I think it's a Dame Lillard type of night. They're going to need another big night out of him to get it done against this Nuggets team. And I think Dame is going to be definitely a building block consideration type of play for me tonight at 8,700. With this role without Middleton and with more of the offense flowing through him, I just think I want to buy low. If we look at this like a stock and, he's 8,700 and we're buying towards the end of the season, I don't think Dame's going to stay at 8,700. With what I saw, very small sample against a bad team, I know. But what I saw in that game, if that continues, and so tonight will be a good test, I want to buy low on Dame here because I like what I saw from this Bucks team. So I think this is going to be the game of the night to watch. It's going to be a ton of fun. Dame Lillard on the Milwaukee side. And then it's actually when I looked it up and I went back and I looked at previous matchups, and Giannis has, he's kind of struggled in this matchup just a little bit. And it's been Jokic on the other side that's actually had some really nice games. And so if you're creating kind of a mini stack in this game and you want to target the studs, I don't mind the Dame Lillard Giannis route. I think it's going to be very, very contrarian on this slate. This is not a priority or anything like that. There are so many good plays on the slate. I just think this is going to be one that is very contrarian, that gives you a lot of upside. And I think the game stays close. I think it's back and forth. And I would not be surprised if it's at the end of the night, we get one of those Jokic 74, 74, 75 performances with a triple-double. And then Dame, a Like you'd be lying, like a 60-point upside and like DK points, not real points. I mean, he could do real points too, but if Dame is back, man, I want to buy low, and I don't think people are going to be on him tonight. So I think people are going to buy or take the money and go a little bit cheaper to Kobe White, who I also like. But Dame Lillard, 8,700, he's my guy tonight.
Yeah, you've been on the Lillard train. I really haven't played much of him, but that does make sense. And I kind of like Jamal Murray across from Lillard in this game. Getting some love from the chat on baseball stuff. Don't want to ignore it. I do appreciate that, guys. I love basketball and football, but baseball is my one true DFS love. So appreciate that. And I will say I've been in the lab extra early this year on the baseball stuff, and I think we'll be off to a hot start once April rolls around. So appreciate that, guys. Mangone, let's go to you. Denver, Milwaukee. What do you see?
Yeah, I'd love to chat about baseball, and I am excited for it, but we're short on time, so let me move along. Jamal Murray. I think he's a really good play here. He's going to be a contrarian play that people aren't on. I'm definitely getting exposure to him at 8.2K in tournaments, and I think guard kind of sucks today. Like for a 9-game slate, this isn't a great guard slate in my opinion. I just think there's not as many plays, and so I'm going to embrace some different plays at the guard position. Of course, if you did see someone like Dame, happen to be in, he'd be an intriguing play. And then, of course, I think a lot of people are loading up on Luka today. And listen, nothing wrong with Luka. He's a great play, but let's not ignore someone like Jokic. I just think Jokic at 11.5 just can't be totally ignored. It's like a flip the village kind of route. I don't mind him. So looking at some of these more expensive guys in this game, this is not a game that we're hunting for our value plays.
All right, that's Denver, Milwaukee. We'll keep it moving. New York Knicks and Houston Rockets up next. Obviously, big injury news on both of these teams. We've seen the Knicks play. I mean, they always play a really tight rotation under Thibodeau, but we've seen it even more recently with the injuries to Julius Randle and OG Anunoby. Hartenstein also questionable for the Knicks here, so potentially very shorthanded. Looks like, Jericho Sims will play. The Knicks are, I think, an interesting team pretty much every night. Their prices have come up, AP, to the point where you don't need to just slam their entire starting lineup in. Like, there's a couple days I was just playing just all 5 Knicks in the starting lineup and having good results doing that. I think they're too expensive now to do that profitably, and obviously got the Burks and Bogdanovich trade. So, they do have more guys to play at this point. Rockets, on the other hand, will be without several key pieces. Fred VanVleet will miss another game, as will Tari Eason, who's been out for a while, and then Cam Whitmore, who's been coming off the bench, providing a pretty good spark for the Rockets, going to miss this game as well. And then the big piece of news that we're waiting on, Alperen Sengun is questionable. I believe he missed the last game with a back injury. And he's questionable to play in this one. We'll see how the Rockets respond to that. I think Jeff Green went off for 31 fantasy points in 31 minutes in his absence. So something to look at there. But interesting game here. Rockets, Knicks. Go ahead, AP.
Yeah, Tibbs, he has 2 new toys to play with, Alex Burks and Bojan. Bogdanovich, again, we saw tight rotation, but and I'll keep this brief. You hit the nail on the head. All the prices are up now. I don't like you're gonna get minutes and kind of like as one-offs. I think it's fine from the Knicks, like a Jalen Brunson. But again, he's 9,500. Like that's a big price tag for Jalen Brunson. 6,500. It's a big price tag for Josh Hart. Dante, I don't think we can play him at 8K. So I don't see any priority plays on the Knicks side. And then Amon Thompson, he's kind of busted as chalk over the last 2 games. Now his price is up, even though it's been like Jalen Green, in my opinion, has been the guy that you've wanted to target. That's who I've been trying to target as well. So I find myself under on this game. There's definitely pieces here that are fine. We need the Sengun news. We need the Hartenstein news. Jeff Green would start. He's been playing good. But again, in this matchup against the Knicks, I don't think like Jeff Green would be a priority for me at 4,300. I mean, keep in mind, he was good, but that was against Atlanta. The game before that, he looked good. That was against Toronto. 2 teams that aren't playing any defense at all right now. Tibbs, loves defense, and he's going to make sure his guys are getting after it. So I am under on this game.
Wouldn't be a free NBA Hardwood show without mention of Falix Core. Took us, hour and 10 minutes, but we got it. So thanks, Alex. We'll see if Dylan Brooks ends up in Falix Core. I don't think Dylan Brooks will be in your core, Mangone, one of the notorious Dylan Brooks haters on the interwebs. Your thoughts here, Houston and New York Knicks.
Yeah, I will say I played him a little more than I thought I would this year. It's definitely been a little bit more, but yeah, and it's because the one time I played him, like he helped me.
He's punished me the few times I've played him.
Yeah. We need the Schengen news, so it's really impossible to talk about the situation. But of course, there'll be value that pops up and is really good value, and people could be locked out of these values, right? Because it's going to be an 8:00 game, and we may not have all that news in time. So I think that's obviously an important note there. Jalen Green, wow, Jalen Green is 7.9 now. That is a bit expensive. I know he can get there, but that is more of an expensive tag than he has had. And then we need the Hartenstein news. So it's tough to break this all down, but this Knicks situation, like, am I playing DiVincenzo at 8K with the other additions they have? Probably not, right? There's times to jump on plays and off, and it feels like a time to kind of jump off the Knicks right now, but we'll see what the Hartenstein news.
I'm with you. I think I'm kind of off the Knicks for the moment until the prices come down a little bit. Washington, Dallas up next. Obviously, amazing matchup for the Mavericks here. Massive total sitting at 247. Dallas favored by 11. So they're expected to put up, 134 points, something like that, something crazy in this one. Luka going to play, Kyrie going to play, Maxi Kleber also going to play, Dante Exum out, as is Derek Lively. And then Isaiah Livers is out for the Wizards. Start with UAP, Washington, Dallas. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this somewhat brief, but this does look like an intriguing game if the Wizards can keep it close, and that's a big ask. I will say, I think Denny Avdia should be the first guy in your lineups tonight. I do like what the Wizards are doing, so be careful with Marvin Bagley.
Denny Avdia, really?
Yeah, so be careful with Marvin Bagley. The Wizards, they're having some success with the small ball lineup. You know, we were talking about it in Discord. JSU also chimed in and, was kind of pretty much in line with what we were saying. And the small ball lineup has created a lot more upside, in my opinion, for a guy like Denny. We've seen back-to-back double-doubles, 11 rebounds against Boston, 13 against Philly. And we've seen a tighter rotation, too, and more minutes from Denny Avdia. So he played, 41 and 39 minutes. And I like Tyus Jones with them, actually. 5,800 and then 4,900. 5,800 for Tyus Jones, 59 for Denny. It's a nice way to build. They've been outplaying the if you want to call them studs, the Wizards invested in, which is Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. But obviously those guys haven't been playing like studs. So if the Wizards can keep it close, one of Kyrie or Luka is just going to go absolutely ham tonight. I do kind of like that rule, Kyrie or Luka. Kyrie's obviously easier to fit into your lineups, but man, Luka could put up a big number in this spot if he gets going. So yeah, I'll keep it at that. Tyus, Denny, definitely my favorites on the Wizards side. I'll probably sprinkle a little Poole and a little Kuzma, but I definitely prefer Denny in this spot.
Mangone,
Denny Avdia, first guy in your lineup tonight or no? Talk to us. Washington, Dallas.
Yeah, I noticed he wasn't on my 3 max, and that was an oversight. I just forgot to write his name in, but I like him here. I think he's a really good play. I think there's other good forwards in that range too that you can get to, but Denny is just a very strong play. And I've always been a big Denny fan. I think he's one of those elite fantasy producers when he gets the role and the minutes, and it's starting to be there. I'm willing to bet on it, especially in a smaller ball lineup like the Mavs typically like to do. Yes, they've gotten a little bigger with some of their big men. I haven't watched all the games, but what I'm getting at with the Mavs, they do like to play a little bit faster. And with Washington, I think it's going to be a track meet. So definitely in on Denny. I think he's a good play. And Kyle Kuzma has upside at his price tag of 7.5K. You cannot ignore these Washington Wizards. Even Tyus Jones, I don't mind him at 5.8K. Luka at 12K. Now, Luka's just great in almost any scenario. I'm wondering if he's been popping a lot lately because we just have value. And he's just a raw points guy. He does have this ceiling that's you could argue is better than any other player, but it's a watch against Washington. How does he not get there? Washington's just absolutely terrible. So gotta like Luka. He's definitely one of the best spend ups on this slate for sure. So it's a game you want to get exposure to. I definitely want to get exposure to this game. You gotta like it.
I guess I got to look more at the Wizards because you guys seem higher on them than I was planning to be. What about Bagley? I know he only played 15 minutes in the last game, but he is going to start in this matchup, right? And
yeah, they pulled him early in the second half last game.
He played like 4 minutes in the third quarter and never checked back in. But I mean,
yeah, they went small, and I mean, I could see that against this Mavs team. With Mavs like to play 5 out. I mean, they're not going to have a dominant big in there. I could see the same rotation that we saw where they lean on Bilal, Koulibaly, and Corey Kispert off the bench, and DeLon Wright as well.
It's because it worked in that game, though, right? Like I'm.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back to Bagley, but I do think he's going to be a little overowned. But we'll see.
Okay. No, I don't want to play Bagley if he's super chalk. I'm seeing like 6 or 7% though. I think he's
just so bad defensively, and I think the Wizards are so bad defensively, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It'll be another interesting game to target tonight.
We're overtime now, but I just trusting the Wizards. I know they got the new coach and everything, but still makes me a little queasy. Golden State, Utah, our last game of the night. We got a really good crew watching at this point. Hit the like button if you haven't. I haven't mentioned it all day. I probably should do that more often, but hit the like button. We'll do plays of the day after we go through Golden State and Utah. It is Golden State favored by 1 here on the road in Utah. Looks like both these teams, though, should be pretty much fully healthy. Obviously, the Warriors still without Chris Paul, but other than that, everybody expected to play. Kuminga has come back a little bit to earth here, AP, in these last 3 games, I think, up to 7,100. Feels a little pricey to me, but a really good game environment here, I think, for both teams to put up fantasy points. What do you see, Golden State and Utah?
Yeah, I mean, Draymond Green, 5,900. He's been playing good. The Warriors finally back to playing good basketball. I think it's like a triple-double type spot for Draymond. 5,900 is too cheap, so absolutely like him. And then, Steph Curry right now, he's been playing. Chef is just a turn 9,700. It's a big price tag. We have a lot of plays at the guard spot, so don't go all in on him, but mix him in MME formats. Those are 2 guys. Clay, I'm like Clay could. I saw he was kind of popping in projections. I'm going to be a little cautious with Clay, just not playing too good. On the Jazz side, so Walker Kessler, I see this going 1 of 2 ways. The Warriors, with how they like to play, if it's just a tougher matchup for Kessler with the Warriors going small, they can adjust. They have Keontae George, Jordan Clarkson. They have many different routes that they can go to counter, and so that would be my concern with Walker Kessler. But at 5K starting, I think he's going to be a fine play.
All right. We did get news Caruso out, which makes those Bulls plays even more intriguing. We're going to see a lot of people playing the Bulls, yours truly included in that. Mangone, though, wrap us up here on the last game of the night, Golden State and Utah.
Yeah, there's definitely some plays I like here. I think Walker Kessler's a really good play in this range. He hasn't shown he hasn't shown that 40-point game, I think, since they kind of made some of the changes, but he does have that in his bag. I would not ignore him. I think he's just at 5K. And one of these games, they're just going to give him the minute. So I know DC's a big Walker Kessler guy. I'm a believer. I think it's a good spot for him. I'm a little cautious with some of these other options. I don't think it's the right site to be playing Sexton and Clarkson. Do they have upside? Yes, I think they do. If I got small percentages, I don't think I'd exit out, but I don't want to be overweight on those guys. It's something I'd be a little cautious with. Golden State side, I'm Xing Klay Thompson out. I don't need him. I think he sucks right now. He can't shoot on normal places. He's not shooting in Utah and altitude. It's not going to work. Podzimski, I don't mind him. I think he's been pretty good at 6K. He's someone I might adjust his projection out a little bit. I do think Kuminga, the shot attempts are there. I think he could still show a ceiling at 7-1, but not someone I'm dying to get to. I do really want Draymond Green. I think Draymond Green is in a pretty good spot. I like his role. I think Draymond and Walker Kessler are probably my 2 favorite plays in this game. And I agree with AP. doesn't hurt to mix and match Steph Curry on your teams. And again, guard is kind of a little, I wouldn't say it's great. I just think a lot of people are condensing on the same plays because there's not many plays. So they're condensing on a lot of the same guys. And don't ignore some of these contrarian guards that have upside.
All right, that's Golden State, Utah. We're running overtime today, so we'll go right into the plays of the day. Start with UAP, gentleman's play of the day. Who you got for us?
Yeah, Dame time, baby. Dame time. 8,700. Right, he's going to put up a big number.
AP tapping the watch. We got Dame time. Mangone, we'll go over to you for your game manager play of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to game manage it with Devin Vassell. We're going to manage his minutes in that 32-36. That's the perfect kind of play for me. So I love Devin Vassell here. And hey, Io is now going to be very chalky. I mean, the ownership on Vassell, he's squeezed between White and Io. It could go down some. We'll see how much, but I like Devin Vassell as my play of the day.
All right, we got Vassell. We got Dame Lillard, and I'll go next. I will say I do appreciate all the love for everybody congratulating me on the big win, talking about baseball stuff. It does not go overlooked. Much appreciated, guys. My play of the day, I'm going to go with the rarity, the three-man stack. I say DeRozan, Kobe White, Vucevic all get you 50+ and end up on the winner tonight. I'll be high on the Chicago Bulls. We got the Up to Lock show, I believe, already rolling over at runpuresports.com. You can use promo code RPS15 for your first 15% off weekly or monthly payment. This show will return same time, same place tomorrow. Appreciate you guys watching, and that'll do it. For Mangone, for AP, I am DC, and we'll check you next time.